I guess it becomes a bit of an addiction. And I definitely have questioned this year, I'm traveling too fast-paced.
You actually live this life where you don't have the traditional job.
Some of the things I want to do is being able to help other people be traveling with a purpose. YouTube changed everything and given anyone a potential to globally communicate with anyone else.
Louis is the godfather of daily vlogging.
What do you think of Casey Neistat?
Has he done a year yet? He's probably done a year. I'm just interested to see where he's at in 3 years' time. I think a lot of people watch my videos and they're like, you have got the easiest life. And I'm like, easy's not the word.
The man that inspired Casey Neistat to start daily vlogging is on the show this week. Louis Cole, AKA Fun for Louis, is here to talk about his last 3 years of daily vlogging. He's racked up 1,000 of these chronicles, and I asked him what it was like to really be in a new city almost every week of your year, what that does to your head, what you see about humanity that we don't see, and also, how do you become a human when you're constantly recording your life? Louis has a DSLR that's clipped to his hip at all times, I kid you not, and he pulls it out like a gunslinger, and he's recording everything about his life, and he makes 10, 15-minute daily vlogs, and I think people don't understand with gentlemen like him and Casey Neistat, the amount of time it does to record something every day and then to put it up and edit it and get it there. I think it just does something with your head, and I give much respect to these guys. Louis got all sorts of fascinating ideas, including creating an eco treehouse community one day, and I believe that this is a man who really gets done what he puts his mind to, and it's been a blessing really having all of his videos over the years to show us all these fascinating things going on around the world, including many of the tribes that he's visited in Africa, and I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. And we went pretty deep. I think Louis felt like this was almost a therapeutic conversation and got his head around where he is right now in his life. He's got a new girlfriend and where he wants to go in the future. So strap in. I know you're going to love this episode. You know, a lot of people I meet on the streets out here in London ask me, Brian, what is the Academy all about? Well, it's a group of 1,000 members worldwide that get together and we build better versions of ourselves. We set goals, we stay accountable to each other, and it's absolutely incredible. I love it. It's one of my biggest prides here at London Real. And here's a video that tells you a little bit more about it.
The entrepreneurial journey, it can be a lonely road. I push myself in so many areas, but you know, you can't do it all yourself.
The thing about the Academy is it's like, look, you have the ideas, you have the ability, you have the skill, and you have the sort of ambition for yourself. But when you have a group of people pulling you forward, it's so important.
Accountability is what's missing from most of the programs or any gurus or any internet mentor that I had before.
I wanted to get some accountability. I wanted to make myself accountable to a group, to you.
The reason we started the Academy is because I felt like we were doing these amazing talks, like we'd have a Peter Sage episode or a Dan Pena episode or a Kala or someone, and you get super inspired, and then YouTube stops, and then you go back to your life and you don't make any changes. And it was just like, it felt like, what are we doing? If you're designing your life right, the good times are now. And in a few years, you'll look back and say, wow, that was amazing.
The thing about the Academy is it has so many different sort of layers to it. I think your web seminars are awesome. The way you broke it down and the style of your teaching is pretty awesome.
I like the feed. When I have to motivate myself, I kind of look at others struggling and getting over those struggles. So I actually follow daily the feed.
best feature would be the sort of Facebook aspect of it, the social media aspect of it, as in creating a profile with your goals, your dreams.
Everyone's on the same vibe, and we may be at different stages in our journeys, but everyone's on the same page at the end of the day. Everyone's really trying to push themselves and building the best you. It really resonates with me.
And the fact that I'm committing a small amount of money and the fact that I'm actually trying to interact with those people means that I'm invested and means that I will keep it for the long run.
You have to be serious about yourself and what you want to achieve. And if you're serious about yourself, this is going to be such a fantastic platform.
London Real, sponsored by Bulletproof. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Louis Cole, the British YouTube personality and filmmaker best known for his daily video blog on the channel Fun for Louis, which documents your life and adventures traveling across the globe. You recently filmed your 1000th vlog and have built an audience of millions of subscribers on YouTube and Instagram, where your videos have been watched hundreds of millions of times. You currently have plans to build an eco treehouse community, and in April, you go on the road with the Solvi Project, a world brainstorming tour to find compassionate problem solvers in Lagos, Dubai, New Delhi, Tokyo, and Rio de Janeiro. Louis, welcome to London Real.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's nice to have you here, and I didn't know exactly how to start this, and so I was thinking about this idea that I think you can help me with.
Okay.
We recently had an astronaut in here, Chris Hadfield, and he spent 166 days in space. And guys that are up there have something they call the overview effect, and when they look at the Earth so much, they come back with like this new perspective on humanity to a certain extent, because they see that we're all stuck on this rock together. And when I look at your life, I see that you go to all these places and you're constantly in contact with all sorts of bits of humanity, like more so than me or most other people. And I was wondering if you could tell us, from all the stuff you've seen, if there's like one theme that keeps coming back to you, or something that maybe we should know that you know about, I don't know, how we should treat each other, or just like a realization where you're like, this is obvious to me and I wish the rest of the world knew this thing.
Okay, an easy question to start with. I think for me, the thing I have noticed, especially going to countries where they're quite different from the UK or America, the thing that's really struck me is that the simple life, the simplicity that a lot of people are living in, and sometimes it's not by choice, there's just a more simple society they're a part of, seems to bring more happiness and more contentment and more fulfillment. And I just feel sometimes the society I've grown up in, we've often overcomplicated what life's really about. So you see people that may not have a lot of material wealth, but they've just got great communities. They really genuinely love each other and their neighbours, and not just their families and their own little household, but there's a much more of a community spirit. And I think that's something that in the developed world that we often claim to have all the answers, and we're striving society and we're succeeding in so many ways. I think that's something I've noticed often we fail in, and it's something I've wanted to come back to in my own life, and especially coming back here and planning to potentially stay in the UK for a bit longer this year. I want to search that a bit more, search for that kind of deeper community that we lose, I think.
Yeah, that word community is strange because I think sometimes we throw it around.
Yeah.
But I had a guest in here named Charles Eisenstein one time, and he said, Brian, he said, you can't have a community unless you need the other person and they need you. Because he had said he moved to like Chicago and he was like, I'm going to build a community in the suburb, and he had like football parties and barbecues, and he was trying to connect with these people, but ultimately they didn't really need each other, so it was hard to like build bonds.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing some of the places you visited, like this community, like they do need each other to like exist.
Yeah, I think it's much more entrenched in their thinking as well from a young age. There's a proverb from Africa saying like it takes a whole village to raise a child, but we just don't operate like that in the UK, or I'm guessing America. Often you're very kind of, you might have occasional, you know, even if I think about my parents, they've got friends that they might see every couple of weeks for a drink or over for dinner, but generally it's just the household, you go off and work, and it's the typical 9 to 5 kind of picture. And I think just being able to travel the world and have the privilege of visiting different cultures, realizing, there's totally different ways to live and there's totally different ways to interact with those around you. And that's something I think we've definitely lost. And I think even back, if you look probably to our society years ago, I think that is something that was more common. And now we've kind of sculpted this society where we're more independent. We have everything we need at our fingertips. It's all about convenience. It's all about not even to sometimes leaving your house. You can just get things delivered there, which I've got to admit is great if you can just order things to your house. But there is something I think missing, or there's something about society that's steering us towards a more individual life. Even technology and stuff, it's not often a shared experience. So yeah, I wonder where it's heading and how to protect that community.
Yeah, a lot of technology gets us away from people. Like even like the checkout at Sainsbury, it gets you no human contact. Like you said, the apps to get you food delivered, like you don't have to talk to anybody. I always think about that, the line in Fight Club, where the scenario in Fight Club is he has all the money, he lives in this nice apartment, and now he needs to connect so much that he has to go to these underground places and punch people. And so it's like, I feel like sometimes we've engineered ourselves into not needing the community, and then we realize something's missing in our lives. We got to go out and grab them. And in cities, it's almost worse because you're kind of taught, don't talk to strangers, you know?
Yeah, the amount of people I talk to, and they have so much, but it boils down to the fact that they're lonely and and that's I think that's a kind of one of the bad things that's happened from a lot of the other ways that we've kind of evolved as a race. I think loneliness is the biggest danger and risk that people are facing.
Yeah, and I think social media can sometimes make people feel more alone, you know?
Yeah, because that whole thing, it's more of an illusion. I mean, I use social media every day, all day, but I think it can be, and I don't think people are taught of the dangers of it and the dangers of getting sucked into the mindset that we can get everything we need and affirmation and connections with people just digitally. And I think you can in a way, and I love that I can stay in touch with people all over the world, from all over the world, like different countries, wherever I am. But I definitely treasure that real, like sit down, deep conversations. I struggle to do that online.
Yeah, it's almost like a conundrum, a dichotomy. Same with us too, because all our conversations, they're like with people that are here, that are real, and then we blast them out on YouTube to everyone. You actually travel to see and touch new real people and experiences, but then it gets scaled up on YouTube, right? So it's kind of a walking kind of, I don't know, contradiction, you know, in that sense. You actually kind of live this life where you don't have the traditional job. You don't have all these traditional roles. So a lot of people see your videos and see everywhere you go, but in the background, you're kind of challenging us to look at ourselves and think, you know, why do we have a traditional job or a traditional house? Is that something you think about a lot when you do what you do, is to try to put that idea sometimes subtly into people's minds?
It's really interesting. I probably in my early 20s had this very distinct phase where I started questioning everything. I think it started as a kind of, what do you call it? It's one of those effects that just triggers, it starts off as a little it was almost a little question about something, and it just triggered this knock-on effect of me questioning everything in my life and this construct I'd grown up believing and the things that I'd been taught. And having by that stage seen a few other places in the world and realised not everyone does life in the same way, I just started questioning everything, like, do I need to have a 9-to-5 job? Do I need this amount of money to be satisfied? Do I need to live in a house?
Right.
All of these things. And
you went homeless for a while yourself, right?
Yeah, way before YouTube, I was really experimenting with different ways to live, how to live, I guess, minimalistically, like not needing. I kind of just almost challenged myself, like, I wonder how much money I can live on. And I think at one stage I was surviving on probably less than, I don't know, like £30 a week. It was basically food, and I was living in my van, and then I'd have to, the only costs were like fuel, which I often got people to, you know, friends who were driving somewhere would like chip in for fuel, and then I'd just buy bulk food, which probably wasn't very good for me. But it was an interesting experiment, and and I went homeless for 3 weeks because I travelled to Australia and didn't have any money. I think those things taught me a lot, and also made me realise, you don't actually need to do things in the traditional, conventional ways, that you can try to step out. It's not, I mean, it's scary for people to think, oh, you know, some people would never leave their job they're in if they hate it, because they want a backup plan. They need to know what's next. And I'd say sometimes you just it's a leap of faith, isn't it? It's like, well, I know I hate what I'm doing. So you kind of, you know, I think some people get stuck in that for years before they take the step to go and try something new. And I don't know. I think, like, going back to the question, I think probably that that journey I've been on does naturally come out of my videos in the way that I approach things and think about things, just because it's been my way of thinking for so long. And
you always were you've lived in squats. You kind of befriended homeless people and brought them over. You love buses and touring buses across the country. I mean, you've always kind of had a different way of thinking about how to live. And what's with the buses? So you went across America in a bus, and
so
across Europe?
It started for years. I bought a minibus for my 21st birthday. And that was just like an 8-seater, like a minivan. And we did a little 4-day road trip around Europe as a group of friends. And that was the start of this annual kind of birthday trip I started doing. So I love the idea of traveling as a group and being in one vehicle, and we like set up hammocks in there, and we stayed in the van. We didn't stay in hostels or anything. We literally slept, you know, just threw loads of cushions in, sleeping bags, and it was great, just roughing it. And then after a few years of having the minibus, and often going into London, just driving off randomly, finding little adventures and picking up people, I started spending some time with some young people that used to just hang out on the street and get in trouble. And a lot of my kind of late teenage years and early 20s was more seeing my role as like, oh, I need to support young people that I see that are kind of having a bit of a tougher life than me, because I think I was privileged to have this amazing kind of upbringing and very supportive, and I see other people that haven't got that support in their life, and they end up, I think, just missing out a lot. And I don't know, I just saw myself as wanting to support them. And in that, I just thought, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a double-decker bus? I can't remember the first time I thought it, but a double-decker bus that could have it's like a lounge, people could hang out in it, and you could travel places in it. And for years, I used to print out like outlines of buses and sketch ideas of, you know, what we're going to do inside of it. Eventually, after years of talking about it to everyone, someone came forward and said they wanted to fund the idea. So it was at a time when I had no money, there was no plan of how to get the money.
No YouTube channel at this point.
No, I just kept putting it out there, oh, I want to get a bus. I wrote a little vision of what I wanted. Anyway, finally got it funded, and that was the first step in my kind of slight obsession with buses. And then I got this double-decker bus and converted it and ended up living on it for like 2 or 3 years. And in doing that, I was doing kind of youth work all over London and Surrey, and it was amazing. At one point, the police ended up renting it from me to do outreach work in one of the bad neighbourhoods in London. And I used to, one time some police came on the bus and they said, this is the most effective project we've ever seen running, because all the kids that would otherwise be just dealing drugs and getting into trouble were just hanging on the bus. It was a safe space for them. So yeah, that was it was me exploring, okay, I don't need to like work traditionally to sustain this lifestyle of like renting an apartment or a house and this vicious cycle of trying to sustain that. Why didn't I just build this project that I was very passionate about, and it could be somewhere I could live and pour myself into doing good work that I wanted to do. So yeah, that was an interesting time. And then, like you said, I think a few years after that, we ended up as one of the annual kind of trips. We bought a school bus on eBay near New York, and then we ended up doing this 9,000-mile, 3-week tour of the States, and ended up in Alaska. And it's funny you mention it, because I'm trying to track down the school bus that we ended up leaving in Anchorage. We sold it to someone who then sold it to someone else, who then sold it to someone else. And we're trying to track it down because the big vision at some stage would be to fly back out to Anchorage, ship the bus to Russia, and see if we can drive it back to London. So that's definitely in the pipeline at some stage.
You have crazy ideas. How much does a bus cost? British or American?
The double-decker bus I bought originally was, I think, about £12,000.
Wow.
But the school bus I bought in the States was only $2,500. And it was just a standard school bus. But when 15 of us flew out there and piled into this bus, it was like, $2,500 between 15 people was nothing for a vehicle to travel in and stay in.
And it ran, no problem.
Yeah, we had a few mechanical problems, but again, because we had so many people, it was easy to pay for little repairs or things we needed to do on the way, because, when you travel with that big group, it's easy just to split, throw in $20 each and you're good to go again. So
do you think that like putting ideas out there gets things manifested? Like, as you said, you kept talking about this idea of the bus, and I mean, are you a believer that if you talk about things that sometimes they can happen?
Yeah, so
kind of a la The Secret.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. I only discovered The Secret and the concept of that, way after. It was like when I was living on the bus, and I was like,
I've been doing this.
And I was like, this makes sense to me. This makes a lot of sense. This is what I've always done. So it made total sense that speaking what you want to happen can kind of manifest it into reality.
Right.
And I don't know whether that's some kind of, I don't know how that happens. Sometimes it might just be that people hear it a lot, and I don't know whether you're actually willing it to happen, or I don't know the process. All I know is I've found it to be true in my life, that the more you focus on something that that you want to see happen, it tends to happen. Something happens. Something gets you there,
Yeah, people need a vision, and vision's how anything happens. You have a deep sense of community. Like, it seems like that's really important to you. And I know you went to New Orleans after, the hurricane Katrina, and is that something that your parents taught you, or is that something that's just something inside of you that you always were like thinking about other people? Because when I was in my teens and in my 20s, I was just thinking about me. I was just trying to like do this for me and do that for me. I don't see a lot of younger people that are already thinking about getting people off the streets.
Yeah, I guess it probably all started from kind of more of a church upbringing and having that community in my life. And because of that as well, my parents, they did have some close friends, and in the town I grew up in, I had some friends of my age that I'm still very close friends with. So I think I just had a strong friendship group that I guess initially was from like a church connection, but having people that I guess are on some way on a similar wavelength to you in the way you think and what you believe. I think that helped a lot. I felt a very strong sense of community. But then I guess part of me wanting to, I've always felt like I'm a bit of a rebel. But the word rebel, you often think as rebellion as people rebelling against their parents and going off the rails and just, losing it. But for me, it was like the opposite, because I saw a lot of people doing that. It's like, the normal thing to do is like, have a crazy teenage years and just go off and disobey, or just kind of kick against society. But I kind of almost saw it switch, like society is this thing that's pulling me to just, screw everyone else. I'm just going to go out and just pleasure seek. And I kind of almost rebelled against that. So it's like switched back around. I was like, oh, I don't want to be that guy. I see that, and it just doesn't interest me. And I didn't see many people actually stepping out and being like, I want to do things differently, or I want to deliberately choose to do things differently. And one of those things, I guess, is trying to put others first a bit more, and not try and just, try and be generous and kick against the society I've grown up in, which does kind of teach you to be self-focused and succeed for yourself. And it's not a community-driven society. So.
But the natural rebellion is to kind of get in trouble, start fights, drink too much,
all that.
And you were kind of like, no, I'm going to question the whole basis of this whole game and see if I can try to change it up.
And I hated the idea of being influenced, whether that's peer pressure or just society conditioning to believe and live a certain way. And even if that's with my parents bringing me up with a certain faith, like I really questioned a lot of that and found my own journey. And I think it goes to that thing I was saying in my early 20s of questioning everything. And it was just questioning everything I'd been conditioned to believe. And I think I was always looking for ways to, I don't agree with that. Like, I want to try this.
So let's push it.
Let's test that.
Right. For people that don't know much about you, what would be, say, the craziest week of your life in like the last year? And could you just describe kind of roughly some of the things that might make up a crazy week for you? Because I think people don't know the kind of things you do or the kind of things that makes up like one of your best weeks.
Oh, let me think. I mean, there's been a number of times in the last year that I've found myself in 3 or 4 continents in a week, like from traveling. So other than the intensity of traveling I've sometimes found myself in.
Why travel, by the way? Why? Because you could do crazy things. You did a lot of fascinating button-pushing things when you were still in the UK. Why travel? And why be in so many different places over a short period of time?
It's a good question. I think going back to this story of throughout my 20s, questioning, doing these trips with friends, we'd often think, okay, what's the next destination? What's the next challenge? What's the next traveling thing we're going to do? So we went from starting to do a few countries in Europe. The next year we drove to Morocco and North Africa. I mean, that was crazy. Cool. Like, we didn't even know what was going to happen when we crossed from Spain into Morocco. Like, suddenly there's like people riding around on camels, and it's just insane, this kind of Arab culture. The next year, I can't even remember what we did. And then we ended up catching a train from London all the way to Beijing in China. And we stopped in Moscow for a few days and stayed on, there's I think 6 days in a train from Moscow to Beijing with all our friends just piled into these little cabins. And so it was always trying to search for the next adventure to experience together. And I think when I stumbled into this whole YouTube thing and realized, oh, now I've got the resources and freedom to do anything and go anywhere, I guess I just started thinking, well, let's start exploring the world more. And I think by that point as well, I'd done quite a bit of traveling and I'd built up some connections in different places in the world. So I had friends in the US, Australia, South Africa. So I started, they're often places I go back to, and then I also try and explore new places. And I guess it becomes a bit of an addiction. And I definitely have questioned this year, maybe at some points I'm traveling too fast paced because you almost don't have time to process things because you're whizzing in and out of places before your feet have barely touched the ground, and like next place. And I think as well because I'm now just getting inundated by opportunities to do things, like constantly, there's opportunity to do this. I'm having to pick things carefully now, and also in there really be intentional about, okay, I really want to do this. So recently got back from Kenya, and I'd had that in the calendar for a while as this is my friend's charity project that I really want to go out and be a part of and document and experience. So, I could book out my entire year now if I took every opportunity that came in. Like, I was invited out to South by Southwest to do a panel in Austin, and part of me is like, I'm watching all these things happen there. I'm like, I think I have FOMO, the fear of missing out, and I'm just sometimes like I should have gone to South by Southwest, but now I'm just like, I really made this promise to myself, I'm going to stay. I mean, I can't because my passport's in the Nigerian embassy right now, but I've made this promise to myself to stay in the UK this month. I want to stay. I'm going to turn down anything. So it is, yeah, it's interesting. It's a weird problem to have, that I'm having too many opportunities. I'm having to turn them down.
Right.
So, and not many people can relate to that. So.
And travel itself can be a bit of a drug, you think, as in like, because I guess if you're so busy focused on where's next, new people, new things, I guess you don't have to really look inside yourself. But then again, there's so many great things about traveling. So is that something you think about?
So yeah, I think the challenge I've been dealing with is, with the pace I've been keeping up with, am I really giving myself the headspace to dream and to plan and to be more conscious and more present? And I think at times I'm not. I think at times I am very caught up in where I am, how am I going to document this in a beautiful way and share it? And then the next morning rolls all over again, boom, boom, boom. And then recently I'm in a new relationship, I've got a girlfriend, and that's a whole nother thing, quite a new thing to my life. I've been single for so many years, and suddenly, I've now got this important person in my life that I care about, and I need to give time to her and attention to her. And suddenly I'm like, so I'm juggling, exploring new places, traveling at the speed I have been, filming it all, editing every day, spending quality time. And then, I have found myself not having any headspace. So that's my recent journey the last couple of weeks, is like, okay, I need to slow down. I need to make that an important thing, because otherwise I'm just going to get swept up into this wave, and it's just going to direct me rather than me be intentional and be like, this is what I want to be doing.
And for people that don't know, like, how many different cities would you usually be in like a year? Like, roughly, what's this pace like?
I haven't counted, but I'm probably in a different country every week. I think that's probably, probably every week or every other week. I think I've started now saying, okay, if I'm going to be I was going to be in Guatemala for like 2 days. And then I said, no, let's fly in a few days before that, just to give, because sometimes it's just adjusting to jet lag, because I flew from South Africa in February, I flew from South Africa to Guatemala, and I needed to adjust. That's a massive jet lag thing. Like, you need to get on the time zone, and then you're capable of operating. And so I've tried to space it out a bit more, but at times it's very fast.
And biggest memories from the last year, like this happened, this happened, this happened. Is it paragliding adventures, or is it sometimes? It's
less of extreme sports, because those are very fun in the moment. They're pleasurable activities, but I think it's more of the experiences where it provokes a bit of a deeper emotion. There's a connection with someone. Let me think. Put me on the spot. So. I think I really enjoyed, where to even start? I mean, I guess I'll work back from, in the last month, I had a very meaningful trip in Kenya. Do you mean this year as in the start of 2016?
Yeah.
Or in the last year?
I guess
12
last
months?
year. Any period you think.
Okay, let's do this year, because I almost forget sometimes. I'd struggle to talk you through the year last year. I literally would need to pull out my Instagram and, I went there. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Pull out the YouTube videos.
So 2016, started in, had some really quality time with my family in Malaysia, and I often don't get to see my family, so I flew them out for a family holiday over Christmas and New Year's. And that was really amazing to be able to do that for my parents and sister. And my mum actually said that was the best holiday she's ever had. So for me, that was really good, family time. And then jetted over to New Zealand, spent some time with my girlfriend, visited some friends there. Again, that was quality time, experienced a lot of beautiful things in the world. I've even forgotten where we've been. Again, I think I went back to South Africa. A lot, like you said, a lot of my kind of passion isn't just traveling and experiencing new places, but it's the community. So I often choose destinations or trips or projects that involve people that I care about and that I can be working with and collaborating with and doing things with. So spent some time with some friends in South Africa. The recent trip that I just got back from was awesome because it was a group of people from London that I've known for years. One guy that I've been working, I was working in a charity for back 10 years ago. And they've been supporting a local charity in Kenya for 10 years. I went out the first time in 2007. So almost 10 years, this has been a project I've been going back to rather than just landing in this new environment, and which I often like doing. But this was like, there was some deeper, longer term investment that means something to me. And seeing how this project's grown, being able to shed light on it with my channel, which is something I'm passionate about. So as well as inspiring people to travel and bang, 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 destination, paragliding, right, as well as all that inspiration for getting out there and living the adventure, to be able to show something a bit more meaningful and deeper, and there's a bit of a bigger story here. And you know, the project's mainly about this orphanage that was set up, and a lot of the kids that end up on the street in this town called Nakuru in Kenya, that's the main project. They get, I guess, brought into this orphanage and then put in to school and all of this. It just opens up this amazing opportunity for them to go from literally living in the gutter and with their parents who having abandoned them or died, to being able to go to university, potentially, you know, do anything with their lives. And they see that, to see that hope in someone, and even to get a glimpse of being there for a week, which still isn't actually a long time to visit a project like that. Right. But to see that, for me, that's way more fulfilling, to be able to share those stories and inspire people that there's more going on. There's a bigger picture. It kind of bursts your bubble. I think sometimes in our society we can get very caught up in our own troubles and our own problems, and they have that joke like first world problems, where you end up getting really angry and frustrated. And I find myself doing it, and I have to have a reality check, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm allowing this thought to anger me or to frustrate me, when if I step back and get perspective. So I think it's trips like that give me perspective, make me realise how amazing, the amazing opportunities I've had in my life, and the position I've come from. It almost seems unfair. But then to be able to be like, okay, well, I feel like I've been given this opportunity to do something great and to inspire people to do things great with their lives. And I don't know, it's quite a long-winded answer, but I'd say those are the trips that mean the most to me, that impact me the most, and I enjoy sharing the most with my audience.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Tell me about this thing called YouTube. If there was an alien that landed on Earth and they knew nothing about what we do here, and you had to explain to them, first of all, what YouTube is and how it changed your life, what would you tell them? And I'll preface this with this, because it changed my life. And it's weird because you're living your life, I'm living my life. And yet it's almost like having this kind of like weird megaphone on your life. And even if I never meet anyone that watched my stuff, it affects the way I behave, because I know it's going out there and I feel responsibility to these people. And like I said, even if I never meet them, it still changes the way I act. And I like to think I act in a better way, maybe because of that. But again, back to you. How would you explain this thing? And then how has it changed your life?
Okay, so an alien lands.
Assuming he or she can
I'd
speak
explain.
English.
I'd explain firstly, I guess, the internet.
Yeah.
Explain that we've got this population around the globe that is scattered geographically, and that we've built technology to communicate, but that's rapidly accelerated in its advancement over the last even 10 years, 20 years. It's now the stage where we're sharing content and videos and being able to communicate that way. Traditionally, a lot of communication or learning's been done through television or I guess scheduled broadcasting that's controlled by big corporations. YouTube has suddenly changed everything and given anyone with access to the internet a potential to have their own platform to globally communicate with anyone else that's connected to the internet. It's suddenly taken the power, in my opinion, out of those big corporations and companies and production people that, you know, they were choosing the content and choosing the message. Suddenly anyone with any message that people want to hear can be heard. And that has changed my life, because I guess I wasn't aware I had this amazing message to share. It's challenged me as the platform's grown, or the audience has grown. It's challenged me to think, okay, well, what do I want to share? And I've always had this inner kind of want to change the world in a positive way and do something that's remembered in history. Not necessarily like, oh, wasn't Louis great? He did great things. But more like I want to be able to, at the end of my life, say I've positively impacted the world. Whether I was recognised or not, it's not as important. But just that the fact that I can spread something that changes people's lives positively. So, yeah, I think the way it's changed my life is it constantly challenges me to live better, to be a more positive example, to know and then act upon the realization that I am a role model. And I guess it's this interesting thing where I'm trying to share my life as it's unfolding, and I don't know often what's going to happen next or the direction it's going to happen in. It's a constant experiment. How much do I share? How honest am I? Do I share these thoughts? If I'm feeling sad, do people care? If I'm feeling angry about something, do people want it? Are they now tuned in because they want a positive message? Do I want to get too heavy? Is this more of a light, fun thing? All of those things. It can become all-consuming, I think, especially when you're sharing your life daily. So I'm constantly checking myself, trying to stay grounded, and it's good to have friends outside of the YouTube world to keep me grounded as well.
When did you decide to do a daily vlog? And for people that don't understand, what is that commitment really like?
So something we haven't talked about yet is the initial entry point into YouTube for me was a very bizarre one that wasn't planned out. It was me eating weird and bizarre things. It was a very extreme part of my life that was always silly and fun, but it captured a lot of attention, and that was kind of the initial kind of accidental stumble into this world. Then I met a lot of other creators doing all sorts of different content, and suddenly I was like, oh, I've accidentally opened this door into this world which I now have access to. What do I want to be doing? I remember asking a few people, and one girl I knew just said, oh, why don't you try making videos every day? And I just thought, I don't think I could do that. Who would, that sounds boring. I remember just thinking that would be so boring if I was to film my life every day.
And before that, it was Food for Louis, and you were eating all sorts of crazy things.
And that was a weekly or bi-monthly thing where it'd be like one episode, me sitting down and challenging myself to eat something.
Goldfish, mice milkshakes.
Got into a bit of trouble.
But I mean, it was an essential part of where you are now.
Yeah, I'm not ashamed of it. I think I definitely wouldn't go back to that stage, but it was an essential part of my a stepping stone to where I'm heading.
So you were doing that. Positive and negative reviews.
Yeah.
Would you probably embrace both at the time? Were you part of rebellious at first, saying I can do what I want, and then you're like, maybe they're right?
I think it was. Some people look at that phase and they think, what on earth were you doing? I don't think that. I just think I was trying to do things differently. I was trying to challenge what we see as acceptable, and I think it became interesting to me that there's a lot of people that will eat animal products, meat.
To watch the rest of this fascinating interview, click on the link below and go to londonreelacademy.com. There you can sign in with your social media, log in and watch the rest of the episode for free, along with all of our episodes on London Real, my webinars, and all of our premium content, all located over at londonreelacademy.com. So click on the link below, you'll be directed there, and you can watch the rest of this fascinating interview, and I'll see you there.
The difference between, so we're allowed to fish we're allowed to stab that fish to death or hit it on the head, then we're allowed to eat it.